second monthly board meeting of the Board of Education. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Ms. Meeker, will you take the roll?
With pleasure. Ms. Boucher.
Here.
Ms. Campbell.
Here.
Ms. Hastings.
Here.
Ms. Higgins is absent. Mr. Richards.
Here.
Ms. Robinson.
Here.
Ms. Sadowski.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
And I am here. We have a quorum.
Great. Next item is approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Robinson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Campbell. Is there any discussion? Changes, amendments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Next item is the consent agenda that has the meeting minutes from the board meeting of May 5th, the communication and policy meeting of May 12th, the instructional committee meeting of May 14th, the finance committee meeting of May 19th, city and community relations meeting of May 19th, and the executive committee meeting of May 21st. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Hastings. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Robinson. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. With that, I would like to invite up our friends from Beaver Meadow School and Principal Vance. Yay! And any parents are here who would like to come along the side and get better pictures and views, you are welcome.
Please
to
feel
do
free.
that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, right? It's a big deal. They all look so good
So feel
too.
free to just step right in here if you get a better shot.
I know. These lovely humans.
I got you, Kim. I got you.
We've had some practice.
Right? Oh, perfect.
Van, can you just lend that microphone over there? Thank you.
Perfection. Legit move
Yeah,
around
anyway,
us, whatever you do.
there's screens
Move us
everywhere.
around if you need to.
Oh yeah, the screen if they're on it, if
to
there's like
share
other
this
stuff.
presentation with all of our students tonight about our Cliff Grant.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
can you talk into the microphone, please?
Good evening, everyone. We are delighted to be here. Mrs. Scott, our digital learning specialist, is going to introduce our year of the book with the Cliff Grant this year, and all of our students are going to be highlighting all of the many events that occurred through this school year. And they're very excited.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Scott, and I'm the Digital Learning Specialist at Beaver Meadow. And I have brought 7 Beaver Meadow students to talk tonight about the Cliff Year of the Book grant that we received this year. So Cliff is the Children's Literacy Foundation. It's based out of Waterville, Vermont. And every year they have several grants that public schools can apply to. So back in March, we applied for their Year of the Book grant, and we were one of the schools chosen from Vermont and New Hampshire. They only give this grant to schools in Vermont and New Hampshire, and they try to go give proceeds to Title I schools. So with this grant, we have spent the last year doing all kinds of amazing things, $25,000 worth of amazing things in literacy. So the 7 students that are here are going to share about some of the events that we have had this year, and we're going to start with the kickoff event that we had with Simon Brooks back in September.
Hello, I'm Juliet Jones, and I'm a 3rd grader at BMS. We kicked off our Year of the Book grant at BMS with storyteller Simon Brooks. Simon Brooks did some storytelling with us and even invited some of us to act out some stories. After the storytelling, we each got to choose a brand new book to keep. There were so many books to choose from. The book giveaway was so surprising to many students. We didn't know we were getting new books to keep because we have never done this before. It was so exciting. Overall, the kickoff was very fun and Simon Brooks was very funny.
And then we have some 1-minute videos that show pictures from each of the events that we're showcasing.
So many books. So many books to choose from.
I think it started over.
Next is our family literacy event that happened in October.
Hi, my name is Zane. I'm a kindergartner. In the fall, we had a scary dinner, book fair, and literacy night. We had a special presenter named Marv to come to Beaver Meadow to talk about how important books are at home. Afterwards, every family was able to take home a new book.
And it looks like the videos are not loading, so I think we're just going to continue on.
Technology always has
Yes.
its moment in these meetings.
Bring that microphone nice and close.
My name is Gianna and I'm a second grader. As part of the grant, our library received money to buy new books, and Concord Public Library owes to receive money to get new books. We got together as a school to see and learn about some of the new books. Miss Becky from Concord Public Library talked about the new books and talked about some of the cool programs that the library has for kids. Miss Scott talked about the new books that we got for Beaver Meadow School, like the Vox audiobooks that you can plug your headphones into and listen to the book be read aloud. You can even check these out of the library. Amy McKechnie, an author who lives in New Hampshire, visited Adwell and talked to us about writing stories, what inspires her to write, and the 3 books that she has written. I was excited to learn about her as a writer, and she inspired me to come up with ideas to write about.
My name is Emma. And my name is Eunice. We are both first graders. We've had so many fun events this year thanks to Cliff and Moach. Every classroom celebrated with hot cocoa parties because 80% of all families signed a contract to say they would read with us twice a week at home. Volunteers delivered hot cocoa to our classrooms. And we got to add marshmallows and whipped cream. We got to listen to a new read aloud while we drank our hot cocoa too.
My name is Lean, and as a 4th grader, I was able to spend 3 days with comic artist Merrick Bennett thanks to our Cliff grant. Merrick Bennett met with all the 4th graders and showed us how to create an 8-page comic based on native New Hampshire animals. We learned how the process of creating a comic, how to fold a comic, and how to complete the comic with ink. The most important thing that Merrick Bennett taught us was pie, which is a 3-step process with a secret 4th step. The first step is pencil, the second step is ink, and the last step is erase. The secret step, which is in the middle of pencil and ink, is editing. Pie helped us go through the process of creating a comic. Having Merrick Bennett at BMS was a great experience.
My name is Bodie, and I'm a 5th grader. Every month we have had a book giveaway where we have been able to visit the library to choose a new book to keep. All of these books were provided by Cliff. There is a great selection of books, from picture books to chapter books and graphic novels. There is also a mix of fiction and nonfiction. There is always something for everyone. Having these giveaways has helped us to find new book series that we would not have found before. We have been really lucky to be able to have these book giveaways this year.
So those were some of the events that we had throughout the school year. We also just wrapped up another event last Friday. It was our Read Around the World initiative. Each student had their own passport, and they traveled to the 7 continents by listening to stories from each of the continents. Once they had listened to a story, they got a stamp in their passport, and then once all of the passports were stamped, we had a special performance on Friday afternoon. We had the Barranquilla flavored dancers who dance at the Concord Multicultural Festival come. It is all students from ages 5 to 17. They came and put on a performance for us on Friday afternoon, and we have one more event coming up next week. It is our Cliff finale to wrap up the grant. So we have an illustrator coming, and Miss Becky from Concord Public Library is coming to talk about the summer reading program at Concord Public Library. And next week will also be our last book giveaway for all of our students. So in total, each student this year, thanks to Cliff, will have received 8 brand new books to keep. So, thank you.
Wait,
Scott, I think Lean, do you want to
yes.
say something real quick before you hand that out, honey?
You want me to say it? You want me to talk? So Lean brought copies of the 8-page mini comic that she made with Merrick Bennett, so she has one for each of you.
That is so cool. Thank you.
Before our students leave, do any board members have questions? Ms. Hastings?
I don't have a question. I just want to say that it is so nice to see a group of young people helping each other and supporting each other and working together in the way that you did. That it's so obvious that it's just the way you are, not something that you practice just for tonight. So congratulations to all of you, and thank you for a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to say how outstanding of a reader each and every one of you were. I watched you reading your speeches and your presentations to us, and you guys are really, really good. And I can see why you love reading so much, because you're so good at it. So thank you. And I've been to your library in your school, and there are a lot of really cool books there. So I hope I see you there again. Thanks.
Thank you all for coming. Can I ask you all a question? What was your favorite book you read this year? Why don't we go down the line?
Mine was one of the Judy Moody books I got. I think mine was probably the doctor one, the Judy Moody doctor one.
Thank you.
I like that one.
Nice.
Sam?
I don't have one.
Not sure. Maybe one of the Todd Moore books. What is
Yeah.
Shop? Nice.
Mine was probably Charlotte's Web.
Oh, classic.
Mine was probably a book called The Drum Dream Girl.
Ooh. Sounds good. Yeah.
Mine was probably Killer Whale vs. Great White Shark.
Mine was The Wild Robot.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay.
It's okay.
Well, great. Thank you.
Thank you guys for being so
Thank
brave.
you so
You
much.
did such a good job.
And while you are welcome to stay for our meeting, we understand if your parents want to take you home.
You don't really want to stay, trust me.
I have a bunch of blank ones because I made them for the art festival last year. We should all the board members, it should be our retreat activity.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
What's that?
I'll just bring them in. She's got a bunch of them.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, you're so welcome.
so much. Thank you. See, I'm glad they appreciate it, but like projects like this, I hate it. I hate it all arts and crafts. Because I don't like them, I'm not good at it. Like I never understood why did everything have to be like sometimes it's like really we have to draw something.
We could write a medical book in third grade.
You can just write a manual.
Yeah, you can just write it. I have no artistic talent.
You know what? Lean into your
I
skill
was
set.
gonna say, these butterflies are better than the ones I could make.
Yes, yes.
Very skilled, very
Yeah.
skilled. That's super fun. Also, like, what a risk to make this and hand it out.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
that's
it's
super
adorable.
cool.
I'm-
I'm proud of your
yeah.
artwork.
And look at
lady.
her good hand, her
I
handwriting.
know, she did a really nice job. Really nice
Like the
job.
lettering on this.
I'm personally impressed by the antennae. They're
Yes,
well
yes,
done.
yes. All right,
Oh,
great.
such smart kiddos. So proud.
Great job.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it's an honor. Thank you all.
I didn't see
All
it.
right.
That's lovely.
It was lovely. Next item is our student report. Before we begin, I would like to recognize that this is Van's last meeting with us. He is graduating. He's graduating, right? Is that correct? He is graduating, right?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, that's worth an applause, too.
We deeply appreciate all the work you have done in this role and others. And with that, we'll turn it over to you for your final report.
Thank you. Aaron can actually start it, but yeah.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone excited for the school year to wrap up. This also means that spring sports are starting to finish as well. CHS girls track and field won the D1 championships during states and had a total of 110 points. Grace Saysaw now holds both the 100-meter and 200-meter NH state record. CHS also had a successful showing of Hadestown last month. The CHS Music Department will be having a concert on June 5th at the Capitol Center for the Arts. Please come and support. Then freshmen, sophomores, and juniors at CHS have also received their schedules today for the upcoming 2025 through 2026 school year. There will also be an underclassmen award ceremony tomorrow night at the City Auditorium. Thank you and see you guys again next school year.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I think I can speak for all the seniors in saying we are very excited about our last day coming up this Friday on the 6th and having senior week next week. This year, that consists of our Wall of Fame ceremony on Monday, graduation rehearsals on Tuesday and Wednesday, and our senior trip to Mount Washington dinner cruise, also on Tuesday. And then prom on Thursday, and finally, the end of our time as Concord students, graduation on Saturday at 10 a.m. at Memorial Field. In less fun news, our prom has sadly been moved to the CHS gym because of some complications with the management at Tandy's. While this is a bummer, we know that everyone involved is doing all they can to make prom the best it can be. And we want to give a big thanks to Miss Lamb for all the hard work she's been putting in and effort she's been putting into prom since the venue's gotten changed. And then, as this is my last meeting, I had some thank yous I want to say. I want to thank Mr. Herbert for helping give me this opportunity and always being there at the meetings and stuff, making sure things go smoothly for his students on the board, and just really showing how he cares for his students, and for helping move the student rep position to an application-based position. And I feel like this shows his commitment to his students and increasing student voice within our community. I also want to thank Ms. Murphy for providing engaging and meaningful experiences for the student reps, like inviting us to the legislative breakfast, or last year bringing us to the State Board of Education to speak in front of the board. And these experiences were educational, but also really meaningful, with lots of things to learn from them, as they're just real world experiences with places we haven't been before. And I also want to thank everyone who sits on the board for always wanting to hear what we have to say, and for listening to us, and for all the work you put in for the students in our district. I'm just very grateful for this role, as I've learned so much about how local government works and communication with different groups of people. And it's something that I can definitely carry with me for the rest of my life, just with the skills and knowledge that it's brought. So I just hope this role continues to grow, and as it has grown to the past 2 years that I've seen, so we can keep bringing student voice to the forefront of public education and local government. And again, just thank you for the countless hours of hard work you guys put in and for listening to what we have to say.
Van.
Yeah, I actually have one other thing that I think you missed. I attended the CRTC certification. I was fortunate enough to be able to be there with some other board members, and I believe that, Van, you were also recognized as a CRTC graduate as well. So
Yeah.
Congratulations. I don't know if I need to make a formal motion to commemorate you or to celebrate your achievements, but nice job, and you should be very proud.
We're proud of both of you.
Yes. Oh, well, Erin's coming back.
I know, but we
we are.
can say we're proud of both.
We are proud of both of them. We have had great representatives who have contributed a great deal and enlightened us, and we appreciate it.
And with that, many of us will be there to cheer you on at graduation, and I'll ask the superintendent to do her report.
I do have a report. Thanks, both Erin and Van, for your thoughts and comments. And just want you to know that in our next rendition of our strategic plan for the district, there will be a goal in there for student voice. So we all agree, including the board, this is their strategic plan, frankly. But the messages were really clear that students need to have a voice in what we do. We're not perfect, and so we need to hear from everyone in order to move our district forward. So you two can we're thankful for your voices and what you shared with us this year. So thanks so much. I can't wait for graduation on Saturday. It's my favorite event. It really is. The educators all feel like that's the result of their work from pre-K all the way up through. So graduation's a big deal for us, and so we look forward to it. And thanks again. My reports are always a little bit more dry than what the students have to say, but bear with me. Tuesday, we had a great evening celebration honoring our distinguished educators and our retirees, and I wanted to take a moment to remind the public about some fabulous teachers that were selected as distinguished educators. So if you don't mind, I'd like to read their names aloud for the public. Casey Ireland, teacher over at Abbott Downing. Melissa Lagasse from Beaver Meadow School. Elizabeth Finney from Broken Ground School. Amy Golden, Runlet Middle School. We had 2 from Concord High School, of course, 2 from Concord High School. Dr. Herbert always pushes the rules a little bit. But anyway, we're really pleased. Carrie Chamberlain and Heather Willette Seigan from Concord High School, and from the Concord Regional Technical Center. Great event the other night. Gail Bourdouin, who is our criminal justice teacher over at the Career and Technical Center. Great showing. They were quite proud. We also had an honored 24 retirees in our district for their years of service. I mean, there were folks there that had as many as 40 years devoted to the district, lots of 30s, lots of those in the 30s, and we're grateful for all that they brought to the students and families in the district. So it was a great event. We changed it up a little bit this year, have it at Abbott Downing. I think that we'll look at it again and kind of debrief about it, but I thought it was, I got a lot of really positive feedback from folks about it. So, and I was really pleased. It was well attended, and then people stayed and chatted with friends and families, which even made it a really nice social event. So that was that's your event, and I think people really appreciated it. The next issue that I wanted to discuss with you, and I would ask that you go to page 33 in your books, and that's the general assurances. And I think that our President Walsh will also jump in here with me on this one. These are assurances that are signed. I've been signing these for a long time. And these assurances were brought forward by the Department of Ed, and it provides, and it used to be just the superintendent signed it. Now they have the board president sign them, or the board chairs, depending on whatever organization they have. But these are, we'll explain that letter in a minute, but the assurances are our commitment to all of the things that happened in government that we have to say that we agree to. Let me give you an example. Davis-Bacon is a good example about the wages and how you do that. We have to follow Davis-Bacon law. There are tons of other things in here about having policies around auditing, bully policies. So that's pretty normal. This year, there was, as you know, from the news and current events, there was a lot of controversy around these general assurances because of what was expected by school districts. And if you go to your page 34 in your booklet, and you look down at number 6, you will see that there were things that were removed from the assurances based on discussions with various organizations, the teachers associations, ACLU, school legal opinions, and so the Department of Ed.
Can I just clarify? They were removed from the proposed general assurances. This
right.
is
I'm
new
sorry.
language that hasn't been in previous general assurances.
So they were in the original one I got on May 20th. Then this new one, a revised, came out, and you can see the line, the markouts on it, right? Where they were taking out the White House executive orders and some other issues, especially as it related to Harvard and some of the issues there around student enrollment. So. There's a few others regarding Executive Order 4168, defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government. All of those were taken out. All right. So I read through this pretty extensively, multiple times. You can see it's a rather lengthy report, but it requires that every page be signed off on. However, I struggled, and I spent some time with President Walsh on page 35. I'd like you to look at K on page 35. That would be 6K. And I was concerned about that because of the way it's written. The requirements of any other statute, administrative rule, executive order, the requirement of any other, did you get that part of it? Administrative rule, executive order, dear colleague letter. We get these dear colleague letters from the Department of Ed describing discrimination and DEI and all of those pieces, or non-regulatory guidance which may apply to the application. That is so broad. It isn't just about what's available right now and what rules we follow now, but this implies for the whole year. I was concerned about that. But as you recall back in the spring, I signed the first order because of the amount of money that was on the table. Remember, this affects our federal grants. So that's when I got into discussion with Ms.
The other
Walsh.
concern about K, obviously, is that some of these dear colleague letters, executive orders, have been challenged successfully or on hold. So our legal counsel has recommended that we submit it with a cover letter, which other districts are doing and have done, that essentially says that we comply with the extent that the things you're doing are lawful and found, and are being, but if they are not upheld by a court, then we will not comply with things that are unlawful.
Ta-da! So I would recommend that we sign the assurances, and I believe later on in the agenda there's a vote to do that. That would authorize Pam and myself to sign off on each page, ensuring that we are funded with about $8 million worth of federal grants, but we also sign off on that letter and send that along with it as an attachment. If they don't accept that attachment with the assurances, then I will send it on under a separate mailing to the Department of Ed.
questions? Ms. Meeker?
Just a quick question. So we're being asked to sign language that is stricken rather than just eliminated from the draft?
Well, right now, the way I received it was just stricken from it, not eliminated. We did not get it came to us as a revised a list of assurances. I did not get a clean copy with those removed.
And there's no footnote explaining the stricken language? To my end.
If
I'm
you
just
look-
curious about the format.
The only explanation that I received relative to this was via email with this as an attachment.
Okay.
And we are unable to edit these.
We are unable to edit these. Yeah.
Let me get my hands on it.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I think if we
I
were
know.
editing them,
I
we'd
know.
be doing more than adding footnotes,
But honestly, everything else in here is standard for
Yeah.
what I've done for years in terms of the compliance in order to receive grant money.
Okay.
I'm looking at page 49, the red lettering. Does this amendment that we're sending in any way cause us to be in jeopardy of losing some of these funds?
Say that again, please.
Are
The
we-
letter.
The letter.
No, it will not. We have no, it's just in our opinion stating that we comply to all of those things and that we are not discriminating and so forth. So it's just reaffirming the board's position around that.
And given that what our next topic is, I mean, I think it's important to point out that our work around inclusion and equity and diversity does not discriminate against anyone on the basis of race, gender, sexual orientation, national origin, gender identity. Am I missing any?
You got them all.
Yeah. What it is about is making sure that we are not doing that, and that auditing ourselves to make sure that we are being fair and serving all of our students to the best of our ability. Unfortunately, that's a controversial interpretation at the time, but I think it's no one gets a preference in our district based on any factor. So, anyway, is there further discussion on this?
Yes. One of my concerns is around the phrase non-regulatory guidance. I mean, it doesn't even say non-regulatory guidance documents. I mean, that could theoretically be verbal
I was just gonna
advice
say,
from the
should be-
DOE.
Yeah,
Like,
it could be someone walking up to
so,
you and saying.
I mean, yeah, I'm sorry. I know you probably don't have the answers to this, I'm guessing.
I don't have the answers to that. Most of the, those kinds of things come through the department, through this office. But be assured that when these things come through, our association, our legal team immediately steps in. As you know, they've all been very active. The school lawyers representing all of the districts, and Dean being very active. Your legal attorney we jump right in. So I know what you're saying, but we do keep a close eye on it.
We are not the only district that has concerns about K, and that is why we are not the only district that is sending a letter that, I'm not sure that they could legally require us, they could give us guidance that all classrooms should be painted blue. I'm not sure that.
They could give us verbal instruction.
Yes, but I'm not sure that would be.
That we were to do
legal.
something. Yeah.
So.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. All right.
Good question.
Anything else on this subject? All right. Speaking of things up the street, legislative updates.
Okay, that's been, just let me get my notes, because I need them.
It's been a
Well,
flurry
we
session,
obviously keep very close attention to this, because it's going to affect us, and particularly with the work that we do around Communication and Policy Committee. I mean, we are getting ready and for a deluge of bills that would require adjustments to our policies. So we're keeping a close eye on it. I wanted to try to highlight several policies. The first one is what you were hearing about book ban, right? And that was House Bill 324. But it includes all materials, whether it's materials that are offensive to some people, have sexual connotation in it, whatever. That bill is basically a framework to prohibit the distribution of obscene and harmful materials to minors in school. We have a very strong policy already in place. Policy 815 and Policy 651. Both of them address a parent's right to question materials and have those materials reviewed. And if, in fact, they don't like those materials, they can file an appeal, and there's a whole appeal process to the materials. So I'm not too worried about it. But it's one of those ones that we're going to have to be ready to look at and be prepared for. The second one, if there's no questions, I'm going to go on. Cell phone use. That's a very interesting one. There are 3 bills currently that are still fairly active. I think maybe one has been tabled. I think one's been tabled. The first one is that requires the sort of the bell to bell. Think about bell to bell. As soon as the youngster walks in the school, as soon as they leave the school, there's no cell phones at all. There are exceptions, of course, with medically fragile students who need that. Think about youngsters who use their phone for their diabetes and checking their blood sugars, disabilities, and language issues, proficiency, that students might use it. So that's a bell to bell. That's SB 206. I've had chances to discuss this with some students at the high school, and I just want you to know that I do have concerns relative to this bill. We have 18 and 19-year-olds at our high school. We can start with 16-year-olds who are given licenses to drive vehicles. And then we have 18-year-olds who are eligible to join the military. And we've always tried in Concord to treat those kids with respect and dignity and not treat them as if they were children in grade school. I'm trying to be...
You're not infantilizing.
Right. I want to treat them, and I think that Dr. Herbert would agree with me and his staff, that we feel like we give the students at Concord High School some ability to control their own destiny in many ways. If somebody violates a policy, then there's obviously reaction and consequences to that. So from the youngsters and some of the students that I've talked to, feel like the bell to bell is really more than, I don't think that's fair. So that's why I sort of like House Bill 781, which allows the local school district to develop a policy around the use of cell phones. And you've pretty much done that. Elementaries don't have cell phones, and neither does middle school. Remember, you did that several years ago. Been very effective. But you might want to discuss some additional grade levels. I don't know that yet, but I kind of like the one that says school districts have the authority to develop a policy. We'll see what happens on that one. But with all due respect to our students, I have great faith in them. The next bill that I think is really important for you, and that's special ed funding. It looks like this is one bill that sort of works in our favor. The bill is setting an 80% for entitlements. Now, this past year, after talking with John, we only got 66% of our entitlements back. Do you know what I mean? Those are the catastrophic aid, special ed, that we have for some of those really catastrophic situations where students are out of district placed and need significant supports. And so this bill would mandate that the state pay 80% of those costs.
80% of the costs, or 80% of what they promised to pay, which is 100% of costs after 2.5 times
Well, I
the average
understand
people.
that. Yeah.
Well, no, but I think it's an important
I think
clarification.
it is an important clarification. It's 80% of the 100% that they promised. but it's better than 67%.
Higher than 67.
That's how I look at it. And it really, I know. It almost seems like bargaining over significant bills. As you know, you're gonna look at your finance, Jack's gonna do a financial report tonight, and you're gonna see where we're really hurting. So anyway, that's pretty good. Looks like it's been passed by both bodies, so that one hopefully will be on its way to the governor. Open enrollment is the last one that I really wanted to talk about, and that has to do with things that affect us. The first one is SB 99, and that's an agreement with CTE. So let me give you an example. We have students who go to Bishop Brady who live in another community. And so that community might have a CTE. But would they leave Bishop Brady, drive to that community to get their, it just didn't make sense. So this bill allows students who are, and it affects us because of, we have several private schools that access CTE, and this would help, that would clean that up so that we wouldn't be worried about that they'd have to travel to their home district for their career and technical, and then come back to their high school in Concord, which doesn't make sense at all.
Right.
So I think they've cleaned that up. And so we think that there'll be a vote on this on June 5th, so that's this week on Wednesday, so hopefully that passes. There was another one part of that.
There was language
Oh,
in the
I know
House
which one I
budget
liked.
mandating.
If we have students, let me use Kearsarge as an example. That's a travel, right? That's 40 minutes, 45 minutes from Kearsarge. This bill will allow them to take courses at Concord High School in addition to CTE. So let's say they come to CTE and they're in the second block of CTE. And rather than try to get back and get a class that they might not get to, they could take those classes at Concord High, up to 2. Now, the district would have to pay for those classes. It's not like we just open our doors, because obviously that impacts us financially. But I think that's a great solution, and we've had some discussion with some of our sending schools about that very situation. Stay at Concord, take the classes they need, and then return to their home school. So we'll see what happens with that. The House Bill 741 has been referred back to committee, and the reason for that, the language in it was so broad, and it wasn't specific, and that's where a parent could choose any school in the state to send their youngsters to. And all the criteria really needed clarification. But you can, I guess the point for me to bring these up to you tonight is open enrollment is a big deal. And I think we'll see more and more of this. There is an open enrollment currently law. They did make one adjustment to that all districts will have to add a budget line for open enrollment. So in your budget, there'll be open enrollment, which sets aside money for a student who might want to come to Concord High School and from another community. And that community would have to have a line in their budget to pay for that.
Do they have, right now, they have to agree to allow it?
Right,
So
right.
what does
And
that
it-
mean?
Well, it's been interesting because.
No one knows.
Yeah, yeah. We've had that happen between 2 districts. Pittsfield and another district, I can't remember the other district now off the top of my head. And, what was it?
Prospect Mountain?
Prospect Mountain, yes, you're right. And it went to the Department of Ed, and it was determined by the State Board of Ed that Pittsfield had to pay. And of course, they didn't have a line item in their budget to pay for it, but they had to come up with the funds. So this cleans that up in the existing law. Anyway, as you can see, there's some important things in front of us. I wanted you to be aware of it. I'm gonna try to do this as a regular piece now for the next few months to keep you posted, okay? can get the policy committee getting ready,
Yep.
sharpen their pencils.
And then you had one more item on your list?
Did I have one more thing?
International study for technology.
Yeah, that's the standards, ISTE standards for computers and technology, and so we put those in the book, just as an FYI. I think you asked to see that. We put the international standards, those are the ones we follow. I'm gonna lean to Kim and see if she has anything to add to that.
Simply that these are K through 12 standards, and you had said, you had asked curiosity, what were the standards that we use in our technology classes or the DLSs speak to? I would say that primarily K through 8, these are directly addressed through the students' digital classes. And then in 8th grade, it's taught through the computer technology class, and then in high school, they're touched upon. And each standard also has substandards to it that are a little bit more explicit. They are not broken down by grade level.
I think part of our request on that came from a parent who wondered what the amounts of times that students were spending on technology and on digital apparatus during the day, and we didn't have those numbers. Do we have them now?
You're looking for the amount of time for,
Yeah,
like,
generally, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that exact number for you at this point. First of all, it varies grade level to grade level and school to school.
Can you get those for us?
I can get an approximate
Yeah,
amount.
we're not
Sure.
looking for specifics, but just an idea of, third graders spend about this much of their time on
Sure.
devices during the day. Fourth graders, just to
I'll
see
get
if
you-
there's.
yeah.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Any further questions for the superintendent? Memorial Field update, Mr. Richards.
Okay, as you probably remember from the last time, Barbara and I presented, we talked about where we were working on this committee with the city. We had looked at discussed quite a bit about parking and phasing. With parking, we had talked about looking at the opportunity or the possibility of acquiring some of the cornfield that is state property so that there would be an alternate parking location. Our current parking is really maxed out. As we progressed on that, we also took a look at the fact that that is not likely to be able to be done in a reasonable amount of time that we're looking at. So we had sent it back to VHB, who were the consultants, to take a look at some other options. And I'm sorry I don't have one of these for everyone, but you can pass this around and take a look at it. What they did was put together a plan based on what we had asked for, and it does not include state land. Down the road, if we would like to acquire it and it would be available, it would provide an alternate entrance and it would provide additional parking. But we have included parking in this one. This right here is our existing parking. This would include additional parking here, and extension of parking here. So it does expand the parking quite a bit, and I can pass this around when I'm finished. It still preserves the great lawn, which sounds really great, but really it's a big hill and it would be very difficult to park on that anyway. But we also oriented and adjusted things to, one, save some money with regards to utilizing the tennis courts and basketball courts that are existing there now. As we mentioned previously, they had upgraded approximately half of the tennis courts, and they are still in outstanding condition. And focus more on drainage, which is the overall big thing. And that would be, at this time, tentatively in phase one, with addition of the 2 fields that would be located at the part that is adjacent to the state. This also allows us to have, and this won't be in that phase, but in a later phase, 2 softball fields, which we kind of have, but not really have right now. We might have more of 1.5 softball fields. It retains the baseball field in its existing location for now. This also includes a practice field, so we do get the maximum number of fields as we can out of this. we sent it back to VHB with regards to phasing, as practical phasing, but as of right now, we would be looking at drainage as phase one. We would be taking a look at the 2 fields, including the track. And I'll just mention for everyone here that this is probably the last year we'll be able to use our track. We will probably be looking at alternate locations, Merrimack Valley being one to do that because of the condition of the track. So that was made a high priority, as well as the fact that you're all aware of the fact we have to rent lights, and we are very much on the ragged edge of safety with regards to the football field. And there is a limited time that's going to be available for use at the of the stands that we're keeping. And Mr. Cashman, you can touch base on that one since you're very familiar with it. The stands are certainly safe, but not in their ideal state right now.
I talked to Jay Burgess the other day with the city, and I believe they're going to have H.L. Turner come out and do an inspection on them, so we'll have something to report out next time.
So we're still waiting for some information and costing to come back. Our next meeting is June the 10th. The city has, the next step for this project, if we choose to go forward, is the design phase, which is this time estimated to be about $1.5 million total. That would split 50-50 between the city and the school district. The city has included this in their budget, I believe, and then we would have to address that after their budget is passed to include it in ours. So that's coming at the probably mid to late summer. So next meeting is June 10th. And I believe this information is available from the city, and I know that we had a representative of the Concord Monitor that was there to attend, so we appreciate the fact that they're reporting on this as well. Anybody have any questions? I'll pass this around for everybody to take a look at.
Thanks.
Next, we have a presentation from Great Schools Partnership. Ms. Charlotte, are you leading that?
I'm going to have Mrs. Hastings do a little bit of an overview while I try to get a representative on Zoom.
Okay. So we met in the instructional committee in May and received this presentation. I sent you all the minutes earlier in the month so that you could look it over and have any questions that you might want available for tonight. I believe is it Leah Tuckman that's going to be joining us, Kim? Yeah. Who is the head of this program. The main points that we want to highlight, I believe, are that there's 3 parts to this program. The first part will provide an ecosystem review of how we're doing so far, and that will be through focus groups with students and staff that I believe are already done. I'm not 100%, but yes, she's nodding yes. So those are completed. Those focus groups are completed, which leads us into part 2, which will be the development of an advisory committee, and that advisory committee will be developing clear, actionable goals that are aligned with the district's strategic plan. And members of that committee will include members of the Equity Advisory Committee. Students, staff, administrators, and board members are also welcome to join that. So if you have an interest in participating in that, please let us know. We'd love to have you do that. Once that group is developed, we will go to part 3, which is providing professional learning opportunities over a 5-year arc for staff and administrators. Let's see, what else am I forgetting? The costs for this training will be covered by MTSS grants and Project Aware, so it doesn't have any additional cost to the school district, which is always lovely. We appreciate that very much. And the only last thing that I wanted to point out to you is the school district has been able to join a partnership with New England College, and that's a really big thing for, I think, for you all to know about that. And I think that's
It's on the agenda, leaving.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. Didn't see that, sorry. So make sure you pay attention to that for later on. Okay, Kim.
Thank you very much. Leah Tuckman, welcome to our board meeting, and I apologize, the owl is not spinning to the speaker, but we have most of the board here, with the exception of Board Member Higgins, who was able to hear your presentation at the last time. So we're gonna, are you hearing us okay, though, in general? Perfect. Okay. Perfect. So this is an opportunity for any of the board members here present that would like to ask any questions.
Well, maybe a little bit
Yeah,
of
she
an
gonna do an
overview
intro?
from her,
Yeah.
from her before we jump into questions.
Sure, I can give a little overview. I came in a little bit into that presentation. First and foremost, good evening. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be with all of you tonight. All I see is blurriness, but I'm going to assume you're all in front of me. Yeah, it's mostly just blurry.
Yeah, it's fine.
So the big buckets of this project, we sort of started with focus groups, and that's part of the ecosystem review. So we're doing a large equity ecosystem review, and conducted, I want to say, 16 focus groups total so far. 4 with students, 2 at the middle school level, 2 at the high school level, 8 staff groups, which was essentially 1 per school. And then we did 2 administrator focus groups just last week, actually, and have now concluded all of our focus groups. So 14 total. And the questions were really centered around belonging and support, academic expectations and rigor, professional development and growth, both for students and for staff. And just such an honor and such a joy to get to know your community through the eyes of your students and your teachers and your educators. So thank you for that gift. Once we've collected all of that data, and not just that kind of street data as we call it, but also some of the satellite data, data from the YRBS survey, data from SAT scores, data from attendance and suspensions, and all the different pieces of data we can possibly get from Chris and Tom that we can help utilize as part of our ecosystem review, which will be coming out ideally within the month. So that's really the next stage here, is creating this equity ecosystem review. We're then going to take that and bring it to the administrators at the administrative retreat in August to really think about how that can help guide the work and help guide the PD moving forward. And then once we've kind of got a vision there with the administrators, the goal is to then bring it to the advisory committee that I did hear people talking about as I was coming in. So really thinking about how the advisory committee can create an action plan that's tied to data, 100% steeped in and tied to the data that has been uncovered in the equity ecosystem review. So that's a really quick synopsis.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm here for questions. I'm also here if you want more of the nitty gritty, but really just want to make myself available for all of you. And would love to hear questions, comments, concerns.
I think we do have some questions. Ms. Meeker?
Hi, thanks for being here. I'm sorry, we can't see each other. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, great. I'm just wondering, what was your selection criteria for the focus groups, both for students and for staff?
That's a great question. So we met with principals very early on in this process. And assistant principals, actually. It was one of the very first meetings we did, and we said, we want a really wide range of students. Something we really wanted to prioritize was historically marginalized populations, both when we think about race, but when we think about identities, and when we think about you know, even geographic diversity of your district. We asked principals to give us a really wide range of students when they were selecting. We very specifically said we do not just want your honor students, your straight A students. That's not necessarily who we want to talk to here. Although we'd love to talk to a few of them, we'd like to prioritize students on IEPs, multilingual learners, really just a wide range that can represent your community. The staff ones were a bit trickier because, you know, contractually it can be hard to require anybody to come, you know, either after hours or during their prep blocks. And so we were able to get a great range. What we said to principals was, again, we don't just want like all fourth grade teachers, right? We want paraprofessionals, nurses, counselors, any kind of support staff. So does that answer your question about, you know, how we selected students and how we selected staff?
Sure. So just to clarify, it sounds like recommendations came from the administration to you on who to select.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And I wouldn't just say the administration, right? It was principals, assistant principals, Quincy Worthy, a bunch of different people participated in kind of making recommendations of students and staff to participate.
Great. Thank you.
Other questions? Ms. Meeker?
Sorry, I'm just going to keep going on a roll here. I'm curious if the questions that you asked in the focus groups are going to be available as part of the ecosystem report.
Yes, absolutely. I can also show them to you now if that's better. Whatever works best for you, but we're not hiding the questions. They're very public. So yes, they will be in the equity ecosystem review, but if you'd like to look at them sooner, I'm happy to send them along or show them now, whatever works best.
I mean, we have a pretty beefy meeting, so I probably won't ask for them now, but I'd love to see them. Thanks.
Sure. I'll make sure to send them. Kim, can you just make sure you have, I can't see who this is, so maybe you can just write down.
Don't you know?
Yeah.
Mr. Richards.
You can't see me, but I'm Jim Richards. And I'm happy to see that, you know, we have multiple, you have listed in here as one of your key things, multiple and flexible pathways to promote deep learning. We're very much about pathways. We have such a diverse group of students, and we all want them all to find the best path and the one that meets their needs. You also mentioned earlier that it's a data-driven decision-making. Can you tell me, you know, this is a 5-year PD and a plan. When do you often, or how often do you go back and revisit and take a look at things to make sure that your proposals are really continue to be supported by the data that is being generated? Do you have look backs?
That's such a good question. I mean, even thinking about what school looked like 5 years ago, right, in 2020. So a lot can change in 5 years, and having some checkpoints along the way is critical in this process. So it will be a living document. It's not going to be set in stone. Here's the 5-year PD plan, and we can't change anything because we all know life can look very different year to year, and 5 years can feel like an eternity. So having some check-in points along the way and making some tweaks based on what the data is telling us is certainly part of that process.
Thank you.
Other questions? Do you feel like you have access to the data that you need from the district? Do we have the right data? What data are you looking at?
I need to tell you that, you know, Tom and Chris have been absolutely incredible. We have a data specialist on our project from Great Schools Partnership. That's pretty much her only job is data and evaluation. And she and Tom and Chris have been meeting separately and kind of digging into all of the different data available to us as part of this process. So yes, it's been very easy to work with them. They've been really great. And I feel like we've got what we need for sure to move forward.
Ms. Murphy?
One component to this process has been to look at our policies also. If you recall, that was important. And we have received initial feedback relative to policies and some recommendations. Karen Fisher-Anderson and I sat down last week and began to review that document. And so we'll have some recommendations from the policy committee as it relates to the work that we're doing with the Great Schools Partnership.
Other questions? Well, thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and being flexible. I'm sure you've been waiting by your computer for a while.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy to join anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Leah.
Next, Mr. Dunn, the finance report.
So this week is payroll week, then we have payroll on the 20th, and then balloon checks. So the first group of salaries that you see, when you go into the second, I believe it's the second page, you'll see a encumbrance line of $10,700,000. That is because those are the salaries that are encumbered between now and June 30th, and also the balloon checks that will happen to cover the next 5 paychecks for those that are 26 pays. And then on the benefit side, so far everything is okay there. The big adjustments will be where the FICA and New Hampshire retirement, because we do not encumber those amounts. That's based on actual payroll. And as I've been saying pretty much throughout the last 6 months, when we get into professional services for pupils, you'll see that on in the 6300 series, $1 million over on that section, as well as some other professional services, $156,000 over. And then in the 6400, the repairs and maintenance, it's about $154,000 over at the moment. And then when you get into the 6.5 group, that is our out-of-district transportation as well as our out-of-district placement tuition. And between those two is about 2.8 for those 2 items. We are in the process of, we're done with requisitions for this current year. There might be a couple that trickle in, but we are trying to get the year closed out. As when we talk about it, the calendar, we're talking about June 25th having I believe it's 5:30 to 6 o'clock meeting to cover this food service, an intent to reimburse, and as well as the electric bus chargers. They're the 4 agenda items that we'll need to discuss, and hope to do that in a half hour. If I go down into the 6,000s for supplies right now with electricity, that'll probably wind up being a little over. You could see we have 71,000 still encumbered, projected to be 165 over. Still working on the bids. We're still holding out to have that come down. And other than that, on the expense side, that's it. It's now we're working into the revenues. We have fully built out the project search, which is the 3rd line down that says 513,000 tuition. That'll fall a little short of revenue expectations. We're in the process of doing the Deerfield special education billing and the regular ed billing. I'll skip through the rest of the local revenue and go to the state portion. So the equitable education grant, that was 14,800 in revenue short than what they had projected to us the year before. They tell us in November what we expect the year before, and then the actual comes in. And then voc aid, we're waiting for the payments to come from the sending districts. And the special education aid grant that we got, that fell 13 short, but the voc differential aid was up 13. Medicaid is ongoing as far as its billing on the federal side, and we have not done any of the transfers from the expendable trusts. You know, when you do the your motion, we do an up to, so we'll see where things come in at. We'll have a pretty good idea by the 25th. With 5 days left in the year, we should pretty much know where we're going to land. So, and we'll have some things for you to consider. So, 23 days from now. But once you approve the calendar, I can get it posted. Any questions?
Questions?
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. And Mr. Dunn mentions we will have a meeting on the special meeting on the 25th to go over some finance items, and then board members only, we will stay after for our annual superintendent evaluation. So please make sure that is on your calendars. It will be a fun evening as always. We are now going to hear a presentation on assessments, early results from state and assessments and SATs. A lot of green. Looks good. I like these numbers.
Where'd you start? I absolutely can, you silly goose. You Brussels sprout.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chris Demers, Assessment Coordinator. Kylene Chalaskis, Assistant Principal Extraordinaire at Concord High School. Dr. Tim Herbert to my left, Principal Extraordinaire. We're here to share with you some early results. I feel like I've been watching the election returns as kids are taking tests, and we have some stuff to share with you that I'm going to walk you through. I have a few extra slides than what you have in your board book, and some of the numbers have actually changed just slightly because, as I mentioned, this is still very much happening. And so we are waiting for more and more kids to finish up. This is the last week of SAS testing, and so we have kids testing every day probably until Friday. Before we get into the results, I did come across this article from the Center for Assessment that I'm not going to make you read. However, they are a brain trust in Dover about all things assessment related, and it included a couple of important reminders about the state test, what it is and what it isn't. What it is about monitoring growth annually for all New Hampshire students. It is about giving this an opportunity to evaluate programs and to really sort of pinpoint for teachers and instructional leaders what are the important knowledge and skills. That's usually reflected in the state tests. What a state assessment is it is not about measuring growth throughout the year. We have tools for that. And that's not what this is for. And it's really not about the individual student. We tell kids, of course, to do their best. But it is really less about them. We're not making instructional decisions based on a student's SAS score. This is really big picture. This is like 30,000-foot view. That is the purpose of the assessment. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a reminder. Secondly, I actually took this little presentation for a test drive earlier today with a couple of fifth graders at Abbott Downing to sort of work out the bugs, and gave them an opportunity to sort of reflect on what I showed them, and they had a lot of great questions, which is sort of what I'm going to encourage you to do, is ask questions, because that is really a good place to start. They wondered these very questions that you see on the screen, which were fantastic questions. They really wrapped their head around this data, really knowing nothing about it except for the fact that they actually took the test. And they really made some great sense of this. And then they started to do the thing that we all will want to do, which is start to answer those questions and start to pose theories, as one of the young ladies said today. I have a theory about why that's happening. And I'm putting this out there as a reminder to us all that we have a process in this district that we have used for decades around looking at data, which is to sort of live with the questions for a while before we do that. This serves us well because as we sort of predict what we might expect to see and we sort of draw out our inferences, we expose our own internal biases around how we're making sense of the numbers. I have two brilliant people to my left and right who probably have some answers to this already, and they may have some things to say. However, this is all fresh information for us. We haven't really had time to sit and make sense of this. And so if you have questions, I welcome them. Don't expect answers, however, because it would be irresponsible, I think, for me to throw out an answer yet, because it would be based on conjecture and basically guessing at this point. We have time built into this summer, a data retreat with administrators. We have PLCs happening in schools that will wrestle with this information and get under the hood. We have curriculum committees that will make sense of this. This is all still very fresh. So this is a story. This is the beginning of the story. And without giving too much away, I think it is a story of encouragement, at least in my estimation. So let's walk through the SAT and actually 11th grade data first. 11th graders take the SAT. Aaron can tell you all about that, how much fun that was. We do that for reading and writing and math. And then they also have the thrill of taking the science SAS assessment. And this has been our story for the last 3 years. For those of you who have been on the board or watching this presentation from last fall, we've seen this information already. This is the story from 22, 23, and 24. ELA far outshines science and math. It's been that way for a good long while. It is that way across the state, as we'll see a little bit later in a couple of future graphs. And it has been a story of slow progress as we're sort of tracking the percentage of kids who are scoring proficient, with that little unfortunate hiccup in math in 24, which frankly we struggled to make sense of. Tim and Kylene might have more to say about changes they have made at the high school somewhat in response to this, but I will tell you first, the story from 25 is encouraging. We're seeing upward growth in terms of percent proficient in all 3 areas, and so we're encouraged by that. Anything to add to that before I click?
Let them ask questions.
Okay.
Well, he sort of foreshadowed that
I-
you might have something to say about high school math, so
They might.
why don't you just share it
But
with
then I
us?
also said that there's no answers today either, so that
That's
is
true.
entirely up to them. They may have more details to offer. So unpacking this a little bit, we were wanting to sort of pay attention to, what did things look like last year compared to this year in terms of the SAT. The SAT, basically, the scaled scores that we all got when we took the SAT get broken down into 3 categories. You're either meeting benchmark, you're close, you're approaching, or you're not yet there. And this is what the percentages looked like for us last year, taking the SAT in reading and writing. And I included the state numbers there just to give you some context. And as I mentioned earlier, we tend to reflect them, although we tend to be a bit below them. So one of the things we're paying attention to is, A, are we closing that gap? And B, are we seeing more kids, a greater percentage of kids scoring in that meets and exceeds, and fewer scoring in that pink category of the not yet? And so for reading and writing, we were encouraged to see that both the green went up and the pink went down, as it did for the state too. But then also we're still sort of paying attention to that gap between us and the state in these categories, and we're trying ever so hard to close that. And you'll notice that middle category, those kids approaching, that tends to remain consistent from one year to the next, at least for these last 2 years. That's the reading and writing story. For math, as mentioned, last year's math was a disappointment. You can see statewide, 29%, no great shake either. And then for us, 75% scoring at the not yet approaching benchmark was a disappointment. Van, I know this was your year. No offense, I don't think you were in that pink category. We can look up your score now if we have time.
You can.
Okay.
Everyone too.
For 25, we were encouraged a return to former glory of 28% proficient, which is where we were a couple of years ago.
Aaron's in that.
Aaron's in that, so Aaron, we can thank you for that. And then shrinking that pink category a bit, and still trying to close that gap a tiny bit in the pink category, those not yet scoring proficient. And also, you'll notice from 9% difference between us and the state in the green to just 2%. So that's sort of one of our metrics, is to really try to bring us back to where the state is in this case. So that's our SAT story. Let's shift to SAS. I'm moving quickly because I know we've got a lot on the agenda, but I don't want to give you a chance to ask questions if you have them before I change channels.
Questions?
Oh, I'll ask it now.
Oh, go ahead.
How much of your data analysis is also framed in the knowledge that standardized testing really reflects like the experienced income in a household for a student, as opposed to what they actually know how to do? I'm just wondering if that sort of factors into your analysis in any way.
So what I would say is that we don't rely on these test scores exclusively.
Oh, yeah.
This is a piece, and as mentioned in the early slide, it is about sort of that big picture, how are we moving the ship, as opposed to the individual student. And when we're talking about that level of analysis, what really matters, what's going to happen that works best for students instructionally, that's when we start to bring in other data.
Okay.
If that helps.
It does. Thank you.
No, I would mirror those sentiments and say that what we really do, multiple data points to decide, what supports a student needs, and we focus too on a regular basis how they're doing in the curriculum-based assessments in the classroom to also provide support. So it's just a data point in their academic picture for us.
Cool. Thank you.
Jim?
Yeah, so just going through the data of us and New Hampshire, how do those percentages look in other states? Especially in math, I'm curious as to where.
I don't tend to pay attention to outside the.
Outside of this?
No,
I just am wondering.
no, I mean, I can look into it, but I
We're
don't.
reflecting New Hampshire. I want to know how we are compared to everybody else.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I don't
Thank
have
you.
a sense of that. I'm sorry.
I did read an interesting article a couple weeks ago, and I can't not remember where it was from, about essentially that math performance is pretty much the same as it was in my days
Yeah.
in school. Like overall, for a lot of, there was it's better post Leave No Child Behind, but it's not like there hasn't been like a great fall off from what our parents.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's good context.
All right, I'm going to move to SAS. So these numbers, as I said, have changed slightly. So if you see a discrepancy by a point or two on what you have in front of you, it's just because this on the screen is a little more fresh than what we printed. So looking at, we take SAS in grades 3 through 8 for reading and writing. And we have here the beginnings of a 3-year journey. Again, you saw these numbers looking a little bit different, a different layout, and then I'm going to add the 25 story. You have it in front of you. I understand that, but I'm trying to build a little drama here. 23 and 24, we can see by grade level the percent of students scoring proficient, and the benefit of the way I've laid it out, I think, is that we can start to look to see how cohorts are performing. So if we look at the third graders from 2 years ago, current fifth graders, 38% scored proficient in 23, then 47% scoring proficient as fourth graders in 24, and so then those blocks that you see afterwards give you that change factor. And so they increased 9 percentage points in terms of students scoring proficient. And most notably, the growth is greater than the slide back. And the slide back between these 2 years was between 5th and 6th grade, which we noted. We lost 4 percentage points. And if we fire up the 25 picture, and as one of the 5th graders dutifully noted this morning, wow, the drop is in the same place. 5 to 6 from 23 to 24, and again, 5 to 6 from 24 to 25. Great question. No answer why, but it does sort of give us some pause to think of why might that be? Is it something about that transition between 5 and 6? So that's something that we'll dig into and figure out. Equally encouraging from what we've seen earlier on some earlier slides, the gains seem to be greater. And if you sort of add up now 3 years and you look at that third grade cohort from 2 years ago that we started with, we gained 9% more last year and another 11% more this year for reading and writing, bringing us to 58%, where 2 years ago it was 38% proficient. So there is a fair amount of good news here. As I mentioned, I think last time I was here, when we were facing the opposite direction, we were seeing in the old state tests, pre-SAS, pre-Smarter Balance, back in the kneecap days, if you can remember that, we used to see things like 70% proficient in Concord. That's sort of where we're striving for, those good old days, pre-COVID, pre-3 state tests ago. So this is certainly encouraging that we're moving in that direction.
How does this
Yes, sir.
compare to the state?
So the state numbers we don't have yet.
We don't have yet.
No,
Okay.
unfortunately. You'll see in the last 3 graphs that will remain a mystery. That same 5th grader asked that very same question this morning, and we won't know that until the fall.
But the 70%, my memory from last year.
We
is
were
that-
always below the state, but close.
Anybody really getting 70%? I don't seem to remember that last year.
No. I'm talking I'm talking a decade ago.
Different types of tests. Like the tests have changed, so.
The tests have changed. They used to be on paper pencil. If these are more adaptive, whether they're harder, I mean, I can speculate my own theories here, but, all right, so.
I do just want to say that looking at a little bit of the disaggregated data, there are classrooms and places where they're meeting 70%. So it's very encouraging.
For sure. Our math story, our numbers have to adjust a bit. We know the math percentages tend to be lower, but following the same thread, interestingly, where we saw with reading writing that 5th to 6th grade was a drop in reading writing in terms of math, those same kids increased the percent proficient by 6 percentage points. So they went one way in reading and they went the other way in math. Can't quite explain that one. The drop this time was from 4th to 5th grade. And then as we play that out in 25, we're pretty consistent. The 4th to 5th grade was the only drop. Only 2 points this time as opposed to 8. Again, 5th to 6th went the opposite direction from what they did in ELA. Wish I could explain that one. But again, if you sort of add up the pluses and you add up the minuses, generally we got a lot more growth than we have slipping backwards, both in ELA and in math across all 3 of these grade levels, which is certainly encouraging. And if you follow a thread, this time, for example, say 6th to 7th to 8th grade, we're going from 26% proficient to 42% proficient, largely the same kids. So that is encouraging for sure. And then the last 3 graphs, so back to the point, Pam, that you asked about the state numbers. We won't have the state numbers yet, unfortunately, but we've been sort of watching, over time, this time going back to 2021, that percent proficient. Now we're putting together all of the kids who take the test. So for example, for science, 5th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade, we bundle it all together, and you can see over time, we started at 34, took a dip from 22 and 23, back to 34 in 2024, and then hitting 39% for the first time. Closing that gap with the state back in 24, we'll see in the fall what the state has done at that point. So that remains to be seen. And then for ELA, this is sort of a combination of mostly SAS, and then for 11th grade, the SAT, and we bundle all that together and sort of just track altogether what percentage of our kids are proficient. This was the story over the last 4 years, and if we factor in what's happening these days as kids are finishing up, we're at 56% proficient, which is the highest we've been in a good long while. And then math, the thing we've been watching the most, had, I think, if I calculate back to the last 2 graphs, the biggest jump so far. So we're feeling pretty good about that. I slipped in way too much editorial in those interpretations, so just strike that. But I am trying to sort of spin a somewhat uplifting story.
Ms. Campbell?
Thank you. As far as how many students each grade have already taken SAS, can we assume it's more or less the same? Like, we don't have, like, the 6th graders, only 5 took it versus the 3rd graders who were 20 took it. 'Cause I
You
know
mean
some
have remaining to test?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a handful of kids here and
Okay,
there.
so
I
it's
don't
not gonna
think the
dramatically
numbers will
change.
change much.
Perfect.
From Friday when we went to print, I forget how many of the numbers had changed, maybe 2 or 3 by a percent point. So, yeah, I think we gained and we lost, a point here or there across the board. So I don't expect that these will change dramatically. And then when the state files their report, so to clarify on these graphs, and then I'm done talking. The first 4 years on this graph, for example, are the numbers reported to us back by the state after we report to them. And they factor out everybody who hasn't been with us for a full instructional year. So really, I'm kind of fudging the numbers a little bit here because I'm throwing in for 2005 everybody who's taken the test with us. The state's going to come back and they're going to say, Kathleen Murphy was only with you for half of the year, so we're not going to count that. You don't own that score. So these numbers will change a little bit once the state gives us back the official numbers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Maybe
No
they'll go
big
up.
Surprises, so
Yeah.
thank you. Yes.
I think last year probably when you had more time with the data, and we got sort of bar graphs or pie charts that had broke down proficient and then approaching, so we could understand like how many kids are just missing
Mhm.
proficient. Will we?
Sure. Yeah.
have that
Yep.
at a later point, that'd be great. And I think at one point, we also looked at the data with student absences.
Yes.
And I think, having that again.
Yes.
My memory of the data was that the more students are absent, the worse they do.
Right. Yeah, that's part of the work we'll do this summer. And
On that, so just a plug for
Yep.
going to school.
No, for sure. No, it's a good question, and it's something we've been paying attention to for a good long while, and we give back to the students as, get to school. You see the difference. We saw it. It was dramatic with the SAT 2 years ago. I mean, it was a perfect message about showing up. You show up, I'm going to make it up, doubled your chance of scoring proficient if you were here and missed fewer than 10 days of school. So for sure, we'll look at that.
Other questions? Great.
The goal today, too, was just to kind of give you the preliminary idea. We hear so much about assessments. Kids all come home from school, right, and told you about that. Oh, yeah. So to give you some preliminary information was important. We have a lot more to dig in, and we will do another presentation later on, so you'll have more detail. But I think that I do feel like we saw some gains here, and I'm pretty pleased, and students took it seriously. I appreciate what some of the schools did, made sure they had good breakfast and a snack, and gave them a little extra outside time. All those factors are important in a testing situation, because they've done a lot of it. So kudos to our students who did a great job and gave us good data now that we can dig into.
Nice. And kudos to our teachers for
sure.
that improvement as well.
People have worked hard.
They've worked very hard, and
shows.
look forward to keeping it up.
For sure.
And I think your points that you pointed out about what these assessments are for and what they're not for is really important for families to have as well. Because
It's easy to
true.
lose sight of that. We
Exactly.
hang a whole lot on level 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
When we have so much more, to your point, of a story that we build on students and what they can do and not do and such, that rounds that out. So for sure, thank you for saying that. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, all of you.
Instructional committee.
We're back with the New England College partnership.
Previewed it.
Do you want to talk about this a little bit more? Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, so with the prodding of my superintendent and the hard work of the administrative team at Concord High School and our counseling team, we entered into a partnership with New England College. And the significance of this partnership is quite great when it comes to at least this graduating class, where we have 11 students who have been accepted to NEC. At least 5 have chosen this school as their school that they're going to. Others are leaning in that direction with some of this information in hand. Each graduating Concord High School student accepted to New England College will receive right off the top $10,000 per year they attend New England College of their tuition for being a Concord High School graduate and us being part of this partnership with NEC. In addition to that, any Concord High School senior who wishes to can take up to 2 courses at NEC on their campus. So right now, transportation's a barrier we're working on, but we recognize it exists. They can take 2 courses free. That does not mean the student has to apply and plan to attend New England College. They could go to New England College if their plans are to go to UNH and take 2 free courses and have that transcript not only count towards their high school transcript, but also be transfer college credits into whatever institution they choose to go to afterwards.
So tuition, reading this correctly, it's not they're getting $10,000 off. They're getting, tuition is $10,000 a year for all 4 years, minus the nursing program.
Minus the nursing program, yes.
That is incredible. It's such a big deal.
And that's each year.
Yep.
Yep.
How are these schools eligible? How are you?
So we go. It's a commitment between us and them. Supporting higher education, program of studies, our challenging courses. An agreement for us to look to actively make these courses that are available on their campus more accessible to our students. So again, I mentioned transportation being a barrier. As a school principal, I have to be willing to take that barrier on to provide more equitable access. That's giving you the nutshell of it, but I could give you the whole. I could forward to Kathleen the whole process and the considerations that go into this.
So any school could actually participate if they
It-
meet the criteria.
You can see the eligible schools below. Those
Right.
are schools that were deemed met criteria and accepted.
This is an amazing program and an option for our students. I mean, it's remarkable. So thank you for
Yeah.
doing what needed to be done to get us there.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you.
Very, very good.
I'm very proud of my alma mater. I'm an NEC graduate. I did not pay $10,000 a year to go there, so very pleased that kids have access to this. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
And the other item, Ms. Hastings, the career connected learning?
The Career Connected Learning, again, that is the Rising Tide Pathways. Tim, do you want to talk about that as well?
Sorry, Tim.
Come back.
I know, don't ever go away.
Pretty please.
And I wish I had my partner in crime with me here. Actually, two of them, Jessamine Rockwell and Leslie Berry, two phenomenal educators at Concord High School. But we coordinated a what we call Career Pathways Fair. We had 50 participating organizations from medical, construction, nonprofit, a small business in Concord. In addition to that, we had several of these that were hiring for individuals at the high school level. We had several of them that were hiring for people who were interested in apprenticeship. So if you're graduating, you're considering the field, you might be able to apply for an apprenticeship with this company. And while they were interacting with students and students were getting information from them, they were also offering up pathways to progress in the field that they were in. From, I think of construction as one of the fields that had a site engineer, and they talked about the schooling for the civil work that they had to go through. Architectural design was discussed, in addition to a superintendent who's actually on the project and what those designs, how he interprets them, and what it means to complete a job on time and following timelines and things like that. So those were some of the great conversations happening. This is all in support of our pathways, our program of studies, and our career connected learning, trying to make what students are experiencing in the classroom and the purpose of their classes mean something to their postgraduate goals. In addition to this group, we had more than half of the businesses that were present from our community volunteer and their willingness to either have an internship, an extended learning opportunity, come in and do guest speaking into our courses, have students do job shadows, and they were open to returning to the school more to offer more of an insight into how math, reading, writing, and other courses, content areas really tie into that postgraduate goal, tie into their area industry, and truly trying to make that connection for our students in the community. Taking it a step further to that postgraduate thought process for students. Van and Aaron, you guys were present there. What thoughts?
It was really great. Some of them brought cool activities to do. I learned how to tie I forget what the knot was, but I learned how to tie a cool knot for towing stuff. And it was just so I was just I also talked to my hiring manager, so I wasn't really looking for a job, but it was great. It was filled. People actually were talking to people, and it was nice to see. It wasn't just people walking around just to be out of class.
It was also really cool to see everybody actually be so engaged with what's around them, because you don't really see that much at Concord High School. But it was really cool because a lot of my friends were able to figure out opportunities of what they want to do, and also I got to learn some cool stuff as well.
And the organization of the tables were done deliberately to mirror our career pathways and our program of studies. So if you were interested in public service, there was an area that was the public service area. Then there was the trades, whether it's construction, electrician, plumbing. We had them there. We had areas for banking, real estate, etc. So it was all done with some very careful laid plans to mimic a program of studies and trying to really engage students in that thought process.
Well, there was a balloon, the balloons.
The balloons, so there was blue and red balloons, and that indicated whether they were hiring right now for a student or an individual the age of our high school students, or if they had potential post-graduation internship type opportunities, or if there was after you attended school and you had a couple years, 2 years, opportunities that were open and that they were actively looking. Now, the reason is to, one, even if you weren't necessarily hiring a high school student age individual, it would begin that conversation with a student. So you have a 2-year opportunity, so what kind of degree would I look for in 2 years? What classes should I take? Is this something I could do at the technical school? Is this something I do at a 4-year institution? And then apply and finish my last 2 years while I'm working. So they got into those bigger discussions, and the balloons were really I felt like a really good conversation starter for students. It was listed on sheets that were given to teachers to distribute, or teachers also distributed the information to them. So coming in, they had knowledge that that's what the purpose of these different balloons and decorations around the gymnasium and the tables were for. So a lot of careful planning put in
Yeah,
place.
I was just gonna say, it sounds like so much planning. Please thank your fellow staff members for the incredible hard work that they did, getting people in the door, interacting with students in a fun and engaging way. Like, you know, it's a perfect mixture of community and education, so thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Kara.
All right, communications and policy.
It'll be easy. All right, so to begin, I move to remove policy 528 from the table for further discussion on second reading.
So moved.
No, I moved
second.
it.
Moved by Ms. Meeker, seconded by Ms. Robinson. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
So this brings us back to the discussion phase. If you'll remember at the previous meeting, I moved to approve policy 528 on second reading. The motion was tabled at this time, or at that time. It is now off the table. I have no further discussion or amendments on my part, so I will open it up to the table.
So in your packets on page 98 is an amendment that I proposed based on our discussion last week. It would insert in section 2, number 3, language that is in the existing policy that says the district shall inform students both in the handbook and notices in the offices of nurses and guidance counselors that the district may be required to disclose certain medical information to their parents or authorities. That's in the existing policy, and I think it's important that we inform students that if they disclose pregnancy or other information, that it is not something, even if they're talking to a nurse, because people think, oh, it's private, and it is not. The second part of my proposal is to insert in section 2, number 5. I'm sorry, Ms. Meeker, I know it must drive you crazy that I was not consistent in how I wrote those out. At the end of it, this is when the district will not notify a parent, and it's unless such employee reasonably believes and a reasonably prudent person would believe that such disclosure would result in abuse, abandonment, or neglect. And I propose adding, or if the student notifies them of an intent to seek a judicial bypass under RSA 132-34, which is a provision in New Hampshire law that allows a minor to obtain an abortion without parental notification if a judge approves.
So Pam, just to be clear, is there a period after that? And then then does it continue if information from what we have, or are you saying
Where-
to
where-
eliminate?
That's a period at the
Section 2,
end.
number 5, with what's currently in it. I'm just.
It would be a period after 132-34.
Period, and then does it go back to that? Are you saying this will then remove if information indicating abuse.
Right, there's a sentence missing.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
So you would like to insert it in the paragraph that there's no elimination of
Right,
language.
and then no elimination. That's just an insert.
Thank you.
That's me just not wanting to type multiple things.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay.
So just procedurally, I would say after public comment, we can do it before public comment or after public comment, but I would go ahead and move each amendment individually. Amendment motions don't require a second as far as I know, but they do warrant their own individual discussion. So do we think that we can move those motions now, or would you like to discuss them after public comment?
Why don't we just discuss it all after public
Okay.
comment? Anything else? With that, we have 30 minutes of public comment on the agenda. If you are interested in speaking, please sign in and limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. Thank you. Anyone? All right, seeing none? Going, okay. Public comment is closed. Moving on to votes, we have a vote on the general assurances. Would someone like to move?
I move that the superintendent and chair of the board move forward on signing the assurances and also submitting with them the cover letter that was shared with the board this evening.
I second that.
Moved by Ms. Robinson, seconded by Ms. Sadowski. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Policy 528, I will move the First Amendment to insert in section 2, number 3, the information about the language about including in handbook and in notices. Is there discussion? Ms. Meeker.
I just wanted to provide a little context. This had come to us from the district with changes from the prior policy. Pam is right that this sentence was in the prior policy, so if we put it back in, no current practices will change. The only thing that came up in an email from Karen Fisher-Anderson was that, there's the consideration that signage about having to inform parents may prohibit or discourage students from actually engaging in the conversation with the nursing staff to begin with, and that there is always a verbal conversation between nursing staff and students already about what they are required to disclose. That being said, I am open to this amendment.
Ms. Meeker seems to think we don't need a second for amendments, although that hasn't been our practice.
Jim Richards, would you like to second it just for funsies?
I would second it.
All right, thank you.
For purpose of discussion, yes.
Mhm.
I have no problem with that whatsoever, thank you.
I understand the conversation. I do think that a student could be disclosing information before a staff member in good faith has an opportunity to warn them that they can't keep that information confidential, and I think it's been our practice, and I wouldn't want to see us remove that information from handbooks. Ms.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Not directly about this, but as you know, the parental right bill is there. I didn't discuss it tonight because it's still in so much discussion. I thought that would be difficult, but much of the language in that bill is aligned with that addition to the policy in terms of informing parents. So I think that's coming down the road for us to look at anyway, so just a comment.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And then I will move the second proposed amendment to add to section 2, number 5, the language about judicial bypass. That's an insert. The remaining sentence does not change any of the other language in that section. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Boucher. Discussion. Ms. Meeker.
I unfortunately am going to oppose this amendment for a couple of reasons. Number one, the way that the sentence is structured begins with consistent with RSA 186.11, no employee of the district shall. What this amendment does is it insinuates that the intent to seek a judicial bypass is covered under RSA 18611, which it is not. And so I don't want teachers or staff thinking that they are protected under that RSA with this language. Secondarily, I don't think that the RSA 13234 regarding whether an abortion provider needs to seek parental approval or provide notification is directly connected to how our educators have to inform parents by law. So I'm not sure this is going to apply. Additionally, once a student would enter into a judicial bypass motion, that case is sealed. It's completely confidential. So there's no way for a teacher or staff member to verify that this process is taking place. It puts them in a very legally precarious area. So I think in terms of protecting our teachers under the law, we just need to follow what is under the educational RSA and not necessarily adding an RSA around abortion provisions.
I understand and I'm open to changes in the language, but I do think that under the law, there is a provision where students do not have to inform their parents. And so I feel like we're circumventing another law if we're informing on a student. Yes.
Forgive me for sounding so naive, but I didn't know what a judicial bypass was until we talked about it at our last meeting. If we're going to invoke rules like this, are we going to be educating students and families as to what a judicial bypass is, or do we just assume they'll Google it?
Ms. Meeker?
So I would presume that the abortion provider would be the one to provide that information to the minor seeking care.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only question.
No, I just worry about a student who has gone through a court proceeding and is going that
having their rights
route,
violated. I get it,
and
yeah.
then an educator in good faith learns about it and feels like they have to call their parent, and that sort of upends the whole point of the law.
Well, I will say that this process is usually within 48 hours, is my understanding. So it would be a pretty tight window where this would be a risky situation. But again, this RSA really only speaks to abortion providers, and it doesn't speak to what teachers can and cannot do. And so it from my opinion, is giving them an allowance that is not in the RSA.
48 hours is how long the courts have to act on the petition. It's not necessarily how long a student might take to consider whether they would apply for one.
So my question, Kara, are you amenable to changing how this is written or against this entire inclusion?
For me, I would be happy to entertain language to consider, but as it's written and in the ways that I was thinking about how it could be written, I think we're stuck. I don't think that I would approve of this language. I just don't think that we're actually covered under this RSA. I don't think teachers are covered under this RSA. If you think about it, if a student says, I intend to seek a judicial bypass, therefore you cannot divulge my pregnancy to my parents, but then they never actually seek the bypass. The legal pathway is precarious, and it makes our teachers vulnerable.
Thank God we have some skilled policy wonks on this
Yes.
board, because I'm at a loss.
Well,
I'm glad I'm not alone.
well, then I will move that we send this policy update back to committee to look at this language again, because I do think there are rights of our students that are involved here too. I mean, my problem with this policy since the first time I encountered it is it's not about it's not about students, it's not about making sure they finish school, it's about, punishing girls for getting caught, in a lot of ways, and I know we've tried to improve it, and it's about covering, and being in accordance with the law, but, you know, there are rights that our students have too. And so if we need more input into how do we protect the rights of students while making sure we're not making our teachers vulnerable, then I'm open to that, and I think that's an important discussion to have, but the rights of students, you know, in these situations should be protected too.
So that motion requires a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ms. Boucher. Is there any further discussion?
I oppose sending this back to committee. I think it will end up being moot.
Okay, so the motion that we're voting on is to send this back.
to committee.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
No.
Can we have hands, please?
We get-
Oh,
which-
sorry.
one at a
8
time.
ayes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion fails on a tie. All right. We are on the underlying motion on the amendment. All those in favor?
Aye. Wait, which one?
Amendment number 2.
The amendment number 2.
Oh, okay, okay.
We already passed.
All right.
All those in favor?
I need clarification, I'm sorry.
We're on amendment number 2.
This one.
Do you approve of amendment number 2?
Got it.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
We're, the motion fails. On the underlying policy, 528, all those in favor of approving it?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Me.
Nay.
Sorry, we had a nay.
We have two.
Two nays, okay.
2 nays.
All right, policy passes.
Thank you, friends.
What next?
Personnel.
Good evening.
Before we get to personnel, I do want to just briefly recognize a personnel loss. This is Mr. Fabrizio's last meeting.
Oh my gosh!
We will miss you, and we want to thank you for all of your service.
Yeah, the tears
Thank you very much, and I want to thank this board for the opportunity to serve Concord. It's been an absolute pleasure. I work with amazing people every day. It's an amazing team, and I'm grateful. Thank you.
We wish you well.
Sorry to interrupt you, Ms. Karen.
That's okay. So we're bringing forward 4 new teacher confirmations for your review. We have a special educator teacher at the high school. We will have a physical education teacher for Runlet Middle School. There is a 1-year kindergarten teacher at Abbott Downing that is covering a leave of absence, and a Beaver Meadow classroom teacher.
I move approving the slate of educators as presented.
I'll second.
Moved by Ms. Robinson, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Proposed calendar of meetings.
Enrollment?
Oh, sorry, enrollment.
Well, we're at the end of the year, so enrollment's pretty, you can read across the lines, I don't have to get into it, we're pretty much flat, but we are watching for next year. I'm watching Beaver Meadow and Millbrook as kids move around. We don't know how many youngsters are leaving, so it's only those that have indicated they're coming to us, so we're keeping an eye on it, but I'll keep you posted over the summer. And that pretty much does it.
Any other business?
You wanna do the calendars?
Calendars?
Well, you have a busy month, obviously. I think you heard from students that next week is, well, we have a building committee meeting on Thursday. Please note that at 5:30. There was originally a capital facilities on Wednesday that was canceled. So that's out, but just please pay attention to Thursday. That's an important one. We'll have HMF here to do a presentation. The second week in June, you have the Wall of Fame, great presentation. We have 2 people that are going up on the wall. It starts at Concord High School at 6 p.m. and it starts at in the auditorium and then moves to Main Street for the unveiling. I'm sure President Walsh will have a few words to share at that event. As Jim mentioned, Memorial Field continues at 5 o'clock. And then on Wednesday, we have a scheduled communication policy. That meeting may be a non-public for the purpose of personnel, so I'll keep you posted on that. And again, we're going to celebrate Saturday the graduation for our seniors and cheer Van on as he goes through the line. And on the following week, as getting to the last day of school for our elementary and our pre-K through 11, the 17th is the last day of school. But I want to bring your attention to 8th grade promotion ceremony, or the celebration of 8th graders over to high school. It's a great event, and it's really neat to see these 8th graders all dressed up and going through the process of and he kind of keeps it formal, so it's kind of neat the way it happens. So if you're able to do that on the 16th, I would encourage you. An executive committee, because of the 8th grade graduation ceremony, we've moved the executive committee to Wednesday night. Following week, you have special board meeting on the 25th, and which is a special board meeting at 5:30, and then at 6 o'clock you have a non-public. 3 days of market days downtown. I know that you're going to be involved in the art area, so that if you're interested and you have some time, those 3 days, Kara, are you the one that's signing people up?
Well, I think the City and Community Committee is taking on that charge, but I'm on the Planning Committee for Market Days, and so always, anybody that wants to volunteer at any time during the festival, you get a free T-shirt, and it's super fun.
And I will check with Barb about the sign-ups for the art.
Okay, that sounds great. For the board members, if you wish, there's a community art station that the board or staff, if they want to volunteer, can come hang out and do chalk art with the kids and talk about the district and education and all the fun things. And that's Friday from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock. If you volunteer for the near end of the shift, at 4:30, there is a community wedding happening right next door.
There is.
They found somebody to get
They
married.
sure did.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, love is in the air.
Yeah, right.
They were advertising.
They were advertising. People applied.
People applied.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just want to,
Like, they were planning to get married.
for the non-public meeting on the 25th, we will send out the week before written materials for board members to do their individual evaluations with superintendent, and then we come together as a group to discuss and merge all of those ideas. So please keep your eye out for that.
And when will we get that? Will we get that right after the
Probably
executive
after
committee?
the executive
So I need
committee
plenty of
on the
time.
18th.
Okay.
We're trying to merge several different tools, so hopefully have that for you all on the 19th or so.
You good for June?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make note the 30th is Monday, and I think we've been given the day off, so we don't have a meeting.
So we don't have anything on
scheduled.
that
Yeah.
Monday the 30th.
No.
I would also just note that June is Pride Month. So I just want to
Yay.
say shout out.
Happy Pride.
And also Juneteenth.
June 19th, right?
That's
So I just
right.
want to note those
Right.
incredible and inclusive holidays.
July we were struggling with the board meeting. Somebody said, why did we put it on the 7th? And it was because when we were doing the calendars with the holiday weekend,
Oh, yeah.
you know, we could put it back to Tuesday the 1st, and so everybody has a long weekend. Technically the 7th is the first Monday, but when we were doing the calendars, we knew that is a holiday weekend, so we didn't know what that meant for everybody. So I don't know if you want to keep it on the 7th or move it back to the 1st.
Do we know if there's one date that more people are not able to attend?
Do we want to do a show of hands for who's available on the 7th?
I am.
Oh, it looks like you have a quorum. I'm not here.
Who's available on the 1st?
I don't know.
So it's about, well, maybe the 1st is more.
although that is not in our charter, that's not.
Well, we try to do the first Monday of the month, and that
which
is
is
in the
what is in
charter.
our charter, so, we can do it, we have in the past done a vote to move to a different date. I find that week tends to be people,
Oh,
I
yeah,
feel like
there's no
the
way.
Monday after is better than the week coming up to it, but,
Doesn't matter to me, I'm here for both, so.
right, so why don't we keep it on the seventh?
We'll keep it.
Okay.
It's
All right,
easier.
we're gonna keep it on the
Okay.
seventh. Okay, thank you. And then we have a policy meeting on the 9th. You can see that we're kind of making room for some vacation weeks here. And then the third week of the month, executive committee and a tentative board retreat after that.
We, only one board member sent dates that worked in July and August for our sort of mid-year check-in, so we put this on the schedule.
That means you get to pick.
So that means we had to pick.
That's
If
fine.
it's a big conflict, please let me know.
Who gets the gold star? Is it Jem?
Miss Bichet.
Of course.
Oh, you said this afternoon. That
You know, plug in any other dates. I kind of left it wide open because of everybody's vacation weeks.
Oh, yeah.
No one's arguing with you.
And nothing was as pressing as the items that were on there. And then I actually put in August just because I did 3 months last month and just give you an idea what's happening in August.
Thank you.
That is very fluid. But we do know that the first Monday of the month is the
Is
board
gonna be
meeting on the board, so.
And I won't be there for that.
On the fourth, okay. All right.
Good?
Yeah?
Okay.
Do,
Thank you.
we need a non-public? No. In that case,
Can we
I will
just
take
ask a
Oh,
quick
hold on,
question?
Jack has-
Mr. Dunn.
So you still have one outstanding collective bargaining agreement that needs to be taken care of, although it's not settled yet. So we're thinking maybe the 16th or 18th, sub that in June.
In June?
The meeting,
Yeah,
we
I-
already
The 21st.
I know.
to turn the page.
What's that?
We can't do it on the 25th, at the meeting we're having on the 25th?
For negotiations or is it for?
Do you need a negotiations committee, or do you need the full board?
I think-
Both.
Both.
Okay.
So I'm thinking more negotiations because you need to recommend to the board, but I
So
could
let's
do it on the night of the
negotiations at
25th.
5 o'clock on the 18th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then
Waits for
we'll go
Wait a
from
minute, on
there.
the 18th?
everyone or just negotiations?
Just negotiations.
So
So I don't need
5
to-
o'clock negotiations on the 18th.
Yeah.
And then you would have a chance to vote on it
On
on
the
the
following week.
25th, so we can get that contract.
Oh, got it.
And that's the last one, which is the bus
That's
bus
gonna go
drivers.
super quick.
Thank you.
Okay.
Really? All right.
Thanks, Jack.
It's gonna go super quick.
I'm not worried about it.
I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Robinson, second by Ms. Boucher. All those in favor?
Aye.